Testing, 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 testing. Testing, 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 testing. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Mic check, mic check, mic check. Am I coming through? Am I coming through? I think I'm coming through a little bit. I don't know if I'm coming through quite so clearly because there's still people talking, like Douglas is talking. Let's see, Chris is talking. Let's see. I'll call you out. These folks over here, my friends from Bloomberg, are still talking. Who else? My mother is still talking. Y'all forget we're in the school. You all have detention. Mandatory detention. See me after school. Good afternoon, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to Clinton Hill Early Learning Center. Give it up, give it up, give it up. This is an exciting day for us because when this building was built, it was built for this purpose, to be able to bring our community together for important conversations that help to shape our neighborhood's future. But that's not the only thing that we do in this building. We're also shaping young minds. And I'm so excited to have one of our directors here tonight. I want to ask her to just come up so you can put a face to the name. Ms. Daniqua Matthias, the director for Clinton Hill Community and Early Childhood Center. Do you just want to say hello really quick? And
I would. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Clinton Hill and my counterpart at La Casa de Don Pedro and Clinton Hill Community Action, welcome to our beautiful building. We hope tonight is engaging and that you help to shape our future, the future of our city. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So y'all ain't know what y'all just got right here. So this young sister has grown up in this community. She has served this community both professionally and civically. She was on the school board for a little while, but she has always cared for the little babies from the time that she herself was a little baby right across the street at Mrs. Bush's Child Care Center, Clinton Hill Community. Now look at this. Wait a minute. Look how the circle comes full. So her grandmother over 30 years ago started that, and here she is today keeping it going. So I got a lot of love for my partner in crime. Thank you so much, Daniqua. So by a show of hands, how many of you all know me? Let's start there. How many people know Katim? All right. All y'all get a check. All y'all get a check. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my mama gave me this name, Katim. I've been carrying it around for 40 years, so don't feel bad if you say, can you just repeat your name one more time? Because I've been doing that for my whole life. She had an afro out to here. She wanted to give me a name that goes umph. So my name is Katim. I've got the great pleasure of being the executive director of Clinton Hill Community Action. We are a nonprofit community development organization that works for you. We believe that this work is powered by the community. So we don't do anything without consulting residents, getting direction from residents, and not only you telling us what to do, but we ask you to get around the table with us to roll up your sleeves and do the work. That's the way we believe that real change will come to our community, and that's the way we believe that real change will stay in our community. We're focused on housing, food security, and civic engagement. Those are our big buckets. So you're going to see us from time to time asking you, do you have all the resources that you need to keep a roof over your head? We're going to be asking you about the quality of that roof over your head. Does it leak? Does it have mold? Do you have a landlord that's not been responsive to your complaints? And we will be there for you. When it comes to food security, we're working with the food pantries in our neighborhood to make sure that they are fully stocked for whenever that day comes that you or your neighbor needs their help, that the help is there. We're also sick and tired of being sick and tired and having our hand out asking people to do for our community when we can do for ourselves. So I've heard from you that we need a grocery store in Clinton Hill, right? We want our own ShopRite. We want our own Stop and Shop, right? So instead of begging those folks to come to our community, we're going to start our own grocery store. So pretty soon, you'll be walking through the doors of our food co-op, and the model for that grocery store is that it's going to be run by residents. So we're going to be training residents in the operation of a food grocery store, but the customers will pay what they can afford, right? Will pay what they can afford. And then our other priority area around civic engagement, what we mean by that is when you identify an issue in the community that needs to be addressed, right? We don't just stop there and say, okay, now we done got our marching orders, we're gonna go off and do what you told us to do. No, like I said before, we ask for you to roll up your sleeves and join us, and we see ourselves as the battery in your back, getting the resources to you, the support to you to make things happen. Everything from block parties to cleanups. We got a history project going on. Where's Chanel? Chanel, wave your hand. That's our Director of Civic Engagement there. Tia Ryans, I see you out there. That's our Director of Housing Justice over there. So if you have a housing. And at this time, I want to acknowledge my partner in this work, Renata Whitaker, our Deputy Director that keeps it all going. And if I could, all of the Clinton Hill Community Action staff, would you just please stand and be recognized? I see you, Pam. I see you, Ortiz. I see you, Khalid. I think I'm going to shout for just a second, and then I'm going to run and pass the mic. But when we started this mission, when we started this movement, I was in my living room, and everybody was at home because it was in the middle of COVID, and it was just 4 of us. This organization that works for you, our community, has now grown to 22 staff. That's 22 people that you can hold accountable for making a difference in our neighborhood. And so thank you for allowing us to host this conversation. I want to thank Chris Watson for being a partner with us and bringing this conversation to our neighborhood. But before Chris comes up, we have a guest here tonight that has a really important announcement. George, would you come on up and tell us about the library's plans?
Thank you, brother. I'm going to try and keep that energy going, but that's a hard act to follow. Give it up for Katine. I want to thank Katine. By the way, we had not met before, but my director of the public library, Jocelyn Dixon, said, you'll know him right away by his energy. And before he was introduced, I knew that was him. So I want to thank all of you, of course, Katine and Dr. Watson, for allowing the library to be here for a moment. You've got a great set of planners, Bloomberg and WRT. They're going to walk you through the process. But our story is we are in the process of doing a master plan for the Newark Public Library, assessing what our branches are doing or not doing, what you want, what you need, what you're not getting. And so we invite you as part of this process to talk about the public library. I'll be over there. We want to bring a new Clinton branch to the Clinton Hill neighborhood. I want your insights. Let me know, have you ever been to the Clinton branch? By a show of hands, is it giving you what you need? Does it need to do more by a show of hands? Tell me about that when you have a break from this planning process. Make sure you stop over there. We'll have Post-its, pens. We want to hear from you. Someone used the word engagement. That's what this is all about. If we don't hear from you, we're not going to make the best decision. But when we plan together, we get the best library. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Katine. I appreciate this. Dr. Watson, you're the man, so I'm going to turn the mic over.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. My name is Chris Watson. Always call me Chris, never doctor. My wife is a doctor. We are very excited to be in this community today, and we want to first and foremost thank the Clinton Hill Community Action Group for hosting us, and congratulations on this building and your grand opening next week. We also want to thank our sponsor for tonight, the Victoria Foundation. Because of their generosity, we are able to meet with our neighbors and fellow residents in person. Tonight's conversation is a very important conversation because tonight's conversation is really going to inform how we plan our city for the next 10 years. So what are we doing tonight? Tonight we're going to be starting a conversation around what Newark looks like physically in the next 10 years. What does Newark, and how Newark360, how this process will allow us to shape our city together. Andrew, next slide. Okay. Now, we have a very aggressive timeline in terms of how we produce this master plan for the city. And at this point, we are doing these community workshops just to get, hear your voices and how your voices can inform this master plan. But by no means we have started the work today. This has been 2 years in the making. We've been doing a lot of data gathering, a lot of revisiting of old plans, and talking to neighbors, talking to stakeholders, talking to community organizations like Clinton Hill to see, how they are planning their neighborhoods and how we could amalgamate that plan into this citywide process. So we're here in Newark, and we're talking about Newark. And Newark, as we know, have a very storied history. Fun fact, we are the largest municipality in the state of New Jersey and the third oldest city in the nation. So we're old, right? And you can imagine, as being such an old city, we've gone through so many iterations of ourselves, starting from our indigenous sovereignty and then moving all the way to where we became like one of the most industrialized cities in the nation. It was once said that the things that made America run was always made in Newark, right? And then how do we transition to the population we are today? Thinking about the Great Migration and, you know, some of the conflicts that we've overcome such far, like the 67 rights, and how as a city we have grown, and how today, we've turned into these cities of all of these wonderful communities, right? In beautiful neighborhoods, and really truly how we're like now a resurgent city. I think I like to say we're no longer a Renaissance city, but we've passed a stage where, we're seeing cranes in the air, we're seeing new neighbors, we're just seeing a new cadence to how we live in Newark. And Newark has been growing. From the last census, we've grown by 13%, and we're still the fastest growing city in New Jersey. But the growth hasn't been equal. We've seen a decline in the white population and more so a decline in the African American population. We're seeing more and more Newarkers that are from a multiracial background and a rise in our Hispanic population. And as we grow, we're seeing that in the city, more and more Newarkers are not speaking English as a first language, right? Again, there's attributed to a foreign-born population that has helped that growth. And as we grow also, the city is becoming more dense. And we've seen that density concentrated more in our downtown. Over the past decade, we've seen a lot of the buildings downtown that were once used for industrial use and commercial use are now being used for residential use. The Walker House, the Haynes building, coming on board is the elevator building on Washington Street. So we've been seeing a lot of these adaptive reuse projects, and people are moving downtown. The good news is that when we see population shift, we're seeing more and more of an African American population moving downtown into those buildings. So when you see your neighborhood is shrinking in terms of people that look like us, we're actually not moving out in Newark, we're moving downtown Newark. And as we think about tonight's conversation, we really need to think about how we make our city a more resilient place. When we look at the flood maps in Newark, more and more of this physical space in Newark is susceptible to flooding. And yet more and more homeowners don't have that protection through flood insurance. So part and parcel of this conversation is about not only how we plan our city for the next 10 years, but how we ensure it's around for the next 300 years. One of the fun facts I like to say is that we never think of Newark's geography, but it's really slanted from the east, from the west to the east. So I like to say when it rains up where I live in Vailsburg, it floods down in the East Ward, because all of that water runs down, right? So we need to start thinking about how do we prevent that runoff. Another fun fact, Venice wasn't built on the water, it sank. So, if we don't think in that way, we're thinking about the next Venice in the west, right? Next slide. So, what is this master plan? So a master plan is really and truly a community conversation, a conversation about how collectively we think about how our city grow and how we set goals and priorities and really an action plan for that growth. It is also a statutory process here in New Jersey for municipalities with a population of 10,000 or more. We're required to do this every 10 years. But what is great about this is that in 10 years, we can see that growth, reflection that growth, and really course correct the things that we may have liked or may not like from the past 10 years. So is this really great community blueprint that we can create for the physical growth of our city? And as we're doing this today, we really want to reflect on how this growth should be a healthy growth for this city, we should ensure that this growth is an equitable growth for this city, and again, how it's resilient. So I like to say we're in this room planning about her, right? How we make a healthy, equitable, and resilient city. Next slide. And what does all of this do? All of this result in an important document, the zoning law of Newark, right? And what zoning really does is that it gives a prescription about how land could be organized and used. For instance, you think about we're right now on this spot. At some point, someone said this neighborhood needs a school. and they said, this is where the school should go, and nothing else can be built here. That is the zoning that came out of this conversation. Or if you look across the street, we need more housing, but it must be of this type. So when we're finished with this conversation tonight and write that document, that's eventually what we'll be saying. What should go where, how the land should be organized for the future we would like to see. Next slide. And we're not just doing this in a vacuum, right? We're looking at previous master plans. Our last master plan, our city, our future, is now 10 years in the making, right? So we're looking at previous plans and see what has changed over that period. We know we've been impacted by Superstorm Sandy, Tropical Storm Ida. We're still wearing masks, and we're still responding to this pandemic and a recession. We're responding to things like Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd protests, and how, as melanin-rich people, we still have so much to overcome, and we're responding of course, to vast inequality and housing inaffordability, not only in our city, but in the nation. Next slide. And again, thanks to great leadership by Mayor Baraka, we've been listening to this type of blueprint that he created in his first administration at Newark Forward, that really challenging us to ensure that as we plan our growth, it is planned around this community voice. And we plan our growth in a city that we can identify as a safe city, a city that is empowered, a city that is educated, a city that is really equitable and have this joint collaboration. And we're also looking at neighborhood plans. Again, organizations such as this talk to you on a daily basis, and they come up with their plans. We put up here, the Lincoln Park Action Plan. How should Lincoln Park look for the next 10 years? So it's not just planning in a vacuum, but it's listening to what people are saying, listening to all of those other plans, and really folding it into this process and codifying it not just for neighborhoods, but for the entire city. Next slide. And we really want to make sure that this process, we're building on some of the assets we know we have as a city. A city that is rich with families. We're a culturally rich city. We are a very strong place. And a city of neighborhoods and the prosperity that we share as neighbors and as a city as a whole. So these are the type of big things that are really informing how we're thinking about Newark. For those of you who haven't as yet, this is not the only touch point in which we're talking to people. We're also talking to people in that digital space. So I encourage all of you, if you haven't done so as yet, to visit our website, Newark360.org, where you can fill out surveys and you can really talk to us in that digital space, and we're hearing you. What you're seeing here is a reflection of some of the things people have been saying around these themes of housing and transportation and parks and open spaces. And people are really thoughtful and paying real attention as to how these big concepts affect their daily lives. So I encourage you to go online also and continue the conversation there. So as planners, when we're finished listening to all of these conversations, we actually frame these documents around the tools we have in our toolbox. And these 8 planning elements is the way in which we will be hearing this conversation and really organizing this plan. So when you talk about how long it takes you to get somewhere, we're hearing that through the lens of transportation. When you're talking about, you don't like how something look, we're hearing it through the lens of urban design. Or, I need a job in my neighborhood, then we're hearing it through the lens of economic development. So these elements is really and truly how, as planners, we interpret what we're hearing from you. Because at the end of the day, we still need to write something that is one technical and one saturated with a community voice. So this is just a synopsis of why we're here today and what really is the purpose of this plan. And again, it boils down to creating this land use element that really allows us to think bigger about how it supports this circulation, how it creates the size the city should be. How we talk about density, how we talk about how we get from point A to point B quicker. Where does the jobs land and the jobs for who, right? So how we're organized tonight, we'll have 4 stations, and we're going to ask you to spend a few minutes at each of those stations and just think broadly about, where do you live? Where are we living in Newark? Are we living in single-family homes, a 2-family home? Are we living in apartment buildings? Are those multi-story high-rise or just high-rise buildings? And how do we want to live? And not only how do we want to live, but what it should look like. What should new housing look like? I like to say, think about this. There are some people in here that are grandparents. Where are your grandchildren living? And where their children are going to live? We need to start thinking about the more bedrooms that are going to be coming. Where should those bedrooms land? And what really the building should look like, right? Because it's a serious conversation. If we don't build it, they will come and take what we already have. So think about where we live, and how we would like to live in the future. And then we're going to talk about where we shop and play. Katim introduced me tonight, or introduced this conversation tonight to talk about a supermarket. Like, how far are you going for a supermarket? How far are you going to your cobbler or the dry cleaner? Or where are you going to the park? Is there a park around you? Is the park suiting your needs, you know? So just think about how do we think of where we shop, where we play, how we could make it better. And then we're going to talk about where we gather, right? Where are the fun places in this city? And how we build on those places? And if they don't exist, why they should exist and where they should exist? Again, this is a big, bold conversation about our physical city and how it grows and how it benefits us and our daily lives. And then we're going to talk about where we go. So think about, how did you get here tonight? Did you walk? Did you take a bike or a scooter? Did you drive your car, and where did you park the car? Or did you take the bus? What was that bus ride like? Was there a bus stop with a shelter? So just think about where we're going, how we're getting there, and how we can make that journey a better journey and a quicker and safer journey. And before we go, I've spoken a lot. Do you guys have any questions before we break out into smaller groups? No questions? Yes, go ahead, Mike.
We're planning on how Hope should be within 10 years, right?
So the conversation is really about how do we think 10 years from now, right? Yes, in 10 years. So you're thinking about how do we want to live in the next 10 years, and what do we need to do in the physical realm to get there?
And how about we save these houses for these seniors that have houses already?
Well, that's part of the plan, right? That's part of the plan. In 10 years, I'm a senior. So how do I save your house and build for me?
And how do we save them and keep them in their house?
Yeah, so that's going to be part of the where we live conversation, and we're trying to hear those like suggestions from you. Like, we're not here with saying how we can get it done. We really want to know how we can get it done by you, right? Yes. This PowerPoint, these slides are not on the website, but we do have on the website existing condition that is a more expansive document about what these slides are trying to say. But we can get these slides on the website also. Yeah, we can share it with the organization. They can share it out. Yeah, it's easy. We can give it to you before you leave tonight. We can email it to you. All right. Any other question? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Master plan has the city used, and how has that an impact on the city as it is?
That's a really great question, right? We can't quantify that in terms of like numbers, but I can certainly say that if you think about what the last master plan called for, we've seen a lot of those things implemented, right? Especially in terms of how we have grown, in terms of our housing stock, how we are trying to fortify the city in terms of its physical infrastructure, and some of the things that weren't even there, how we've responded to it. I like to use the case in the lead service line replacement. That wasn't something that was articulated in the last master plan, but certainly how we fortify our city in terms of its physical realm and critical infrastructure was part of that plan. And today, we're the only American city that has replaced all of its lead lines. So I can't say we have completely used it, but we've used it. It has served as a guide to how we have grown. Yes?
Where could we find the data or report about people moving to the downtown area?
Oh, so if you read our existing condition, there's more data to support that. All right? It's on the website. So on the website, you go to where we are. Yeah, where we are. Oh, Newark today. Yes, Newark today. Yeah.
Is there a place if you just have like a miscellaneous type of thing to factor into the plan around public safety?
Yeah, if you go on the website, it's organized like how the slides were organized. It's organized around the planning elements, and then there's the survey you can take. There's a map there where you can map your city. You can take photographs and upload it. These are the things I like. These are the things I don't like. Here are some challenges. Here are some suggestions. Here's where I like going. Here is where I don't like going. And you could ask those miscellaneous questions and give some solutions also. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so moving downtown Newark, is there something that tells you which of those places or buildings are affordable housing?
Well, we do have an affordable housing dashboard that should be launched soon. So we have worked on a way of being more forward-facing as about where you can get the information. So look out for the launch. It's in the next coming days, if I'm not mistaken. All right? But we do have an Office of Affordability, and that was a question asked before, and we've found a way of how we can make sure the public know exactly where affordability is available with this dashboard. All right? Yes, ma'am.
Is that mic working?
I think so. No, I'm holding it up. Pardon me? Oh, yeah. So, I'm going to introduce Andrea McLean, who is working with us, and she's going to walk you through the next 4 to 5 minutes of our conversation. So thank you so much for coming again.
Hi everyone. So my name is Andrea Cozier McLean. I'm a resident here of Newark, working with Bloomberg to engage the community in this process. So I want to walk everyone through the table exercises. It's super interactive. We made it really interactive and fun for you all to be able to take part in this process. So there are 4 stations. 1 facilitator from Clinton Hill is at each station. The first station is the Where We Live station in the back. So that is the housing station. The second station is the Where We Shop and Play section over here. And then we have Where We Gather and Where We Go. So I think I counted about 45 to 50 people here. So we're gonna do 10 people. We're gonna do 10 people, I think 10 to 12 people at each station. And we're gonna spend 20 minutes at each station. At the end of the 20 minutes, I'm gonna come up and tell everyone, switch around, because we wanna make sure that everyone gets a chance to put their input into each section of the plan. You're gonna share your ideas at the end. At the end, each per table is going to share what their experience was. You're gonna pick one person, the facilitators are gonna support you, and then we will close out. If you haven't signed in, please make sure you sign in. If you haven't done your future headline exercise or you haven't taped it up, please make sure you do that. But we are going to break out into our sections now, and we will be here. My coworkers in the back from Bloomberg are also here to help you out. Chris is here to answer any questions, and the facilitators are also here to help. So we can get started heading over to our stations now. Yeah, any station, and the facilitators will help out with that as well. So facilitators, just make sure you don't have too many people at your station, please. We're going to give each table the opportunity to discuss what happened at your table, discuss what the highlights were, discuss some things that came up repeated times. We're going to give each facilitator the opportunity to talk about what happened at their table and share with us some highlights. So we can start with...
Hi, my name is Tia, and again, I'm the Director of Housing at Clayton Hill Community Action. We had some interesting conversations at the table. First, I'll address, I did give everyone different color chips, kind of like a bingo, casino night, I don't know how you want to label it, but out of the top 5 priorities, we put green as the most, like the top priority, yellow as the second, red as the third, and blue as the least top priority. We did have a lot on add 3,000 new housing units, market rate, and affordable across all 5 wards. We did have a lot of top priorities for that. I see the second top priority was a tie between create or preserve 6,600 affordable homes and support 10,000 vulnerable or underrepresented, I can't read upside down, unsheltered households annually. What I did like about this table and this exercise, it generated a lot of important questions and conversation. If you think about create or preserve 6,600 affordable homes, then the question arises, what is affordable? Right? And then we also had a conversation, what is the difference between low income, market rate, and affordable? So we got to a point where one of the participants said, I can't put chips on anything until I understand the definition of everything they're asking. I want the definition of affordable, the definition of market rate, the definition of low income, and then I could put the chips. So I like that moment where they gave the chips back and said, I can't do this. My favorite highlight. Yeah, we might know the difference, but do we know the definition of what they're in this specific area, right? And for this specific town, for this specific local government, right? We may say affordable is this. We may say market rate is this. We may even look in a dictionary and say, this is what we think it means. Even when you talk about AMI, we have this discussion. It's like, this is the AMI for this area. No, it is not. This area includes Livingston in this county. That is not the AMI. I want the AMI for Newark.
That's my Director of Housing.
Okay.
Awesome, and that's a really good note, so thank you. Okay, so now we're coming over to where we shop and play.
Hi, I'm Jay Reeves, and I am the Grants and Evaluation Manager at Clinton Hill Community Action, where we shop and play focused on what you are most proud of in your neighborhoods currently. We took a look at our 3 business corridors, Bergen Street, Clinton Avenue, and Lyons Avenue, and what we would like to see there. And then we also looked at Weekway Park and Newark Airport and tried to determine what the city could do to best leverage those so that they are beneficial to our residents. We had primarily the most responses in Area 2, which is our business corridors. And the discussion got very deep, and you guys took it to a whole other level. There wasn't just discussion around what we would love to see in our business corridors, but also how we can sustain the businesses that do come. Because we have seen businesses come and go for years, for decades, in the South Ward and particularly in Clinton Hill. So we want to know, what is the city going to be able to do once we bring these businesses in to help them stay? And there was also really great conversation around the businesses that do come in. Has there been conversation with the residents to ask them what they need and what they would like to see in their neighborhood? And that, we feel, contributes to why businesses don't stay, because if it's not something that the community finds valuable, if it's not beneficial, then it's not going to be supported. When we talked about Weequahic Park and Newark Airport, it was amazing that the majority of the suggestions for Weequahic Park all revolved around creating spaces where people could come together to enjoy recreation, to hang out, to communicate with one another, and that is something that we do desperately need. And Weequahic Park is huge, and it's not being used as effectively as it could be. One of you guys had a really great recommendation for the airport. What about internships and apprenticeships with some of the businesses at the airport, which would create economic opportunities for our residents, particularly our young people? And my heart overflowed because so many people said what they are most proud of in their neighborhoods are the people and the relationships they have built. And it doesn't get any better than that.
That is awesome. Y'all look great. I want to move over here. This is nice. Okay, so table number 3, where we gather.
Okay, I heard a lot of great ideas for as far as our. Hello, can you hear me? Hey, y'all. Okay, so there were a lot of great ideas that came from each and every person in this room, and you guys had me over here trying to brainstorm of what to put in our green spaces. What the fact that we don't have enough trees, and more and more they're cutting down our trees. I'm seeing it more and more, especially the last couple of weeks. So there were a lot of suggestions as far as putting a dog park so we can stop going behind other people to clean up their dog poop on a regular basis, right? Katine, I'm not going to talk about Katine's issues, but okay, Ma. All right, but for the most part, a lot of people stated that we need more parking facilities for like certain areas where we don't have, the lack of parking, basically. Not enough bike lanes, having bike rentals. Let me see. Cameras at our parks specifically, because they feel like a lot goes on in the parks. It's always they find, bodies, there's drugs circulating within the parks. And a lot of people, their main focus were on Mildred Helms Park specifically, because they feel like a lot of people don't know about it because it's, hidden. If we can make it more vibrant and be able to draw more attention to it. But Clinton Hill Community Action does that. We always host our events there. We incorporate Mildred Helms Park. So, and there were quite a few people that also stated that there should be, as far as the flooding goes, our worst areas are by Weequahic Park, on up and down Elizabeth Avenue, Freeland Heights, and that area, around the entire park. And we've started questioning whether or not the sewers are being flushed properly, and who are the ones that we go to as far as that issue. And let me see. There were quite a few people who said that we should have more sitting areas and like a wellness type of center or aura in one of our parks. Primarily, probably Weequahic Park, because it's the biggest park, as Jay reiterated. And that's about it. That's it from me.
Thank you. Okay, and last but most certainly not least, Miss Renata.
Hi. Okay, so we are over here with Where We Go. Interestingly enough, lots of folk that came to the table wanted to be able to walk the neighborhood. And the barriers to walking the neighborhood, interestingly enough, one thing that one person said was that, she was like, I used to run, but there were so many rats. And right, she said there's so many restaurants. I used to run in the neighborhood, and so I don't do that anymore. So I didn't think of that as one of the barriers. But when it came to the question of how can we improve streets in your neighborhood, the conversation of rodent control was one of the stickies that were put down. The other conversation of loitering was high as well, and for most of the questions. Individuals want to be able to walk the neighborhood. You know, when you go to Madison or Summit, you're able to walk the streets, frolic and play, you know, but loitering becomes a big problem here in Clinton Hill in the South Ward. The other conversation of neighborhood. So the how can we improve streets in our neighborhood? Form a block association, right? So one of the individuals said, form a block association. I said, absolutely. If you know there's a viable neighborhood block association in your neighborhood, then you'll have better streets, better walkable streets. So what would help you get around Newark and your neighborhood better? Wow, I mean, this was coming from, so one of the answers was a shuttle, a jitney. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, we can have a shuttle, we can have a jitney, we can have something that goes from avenue to avenue. There's nothing wrong with that because that'll also cut down on the use of your car so much, right? Especially if you know you want to walk your neighborhood or go. Hello? Exactly. You be knowing. Listen, them gas prices, child. But having a jitney or a shuttle, you know, if I live off of Clinton Avenue, but I want to go over to Salam's Ice Cream on Bergen, I should be able to get there easily, right? And the other conversation was well-lit streets. Well-lit streets, good covers on the bus stops, with good lighting at the bus stops. And so that was a hot topic as well. What else? Safety things for individuals that are differently able. We do know that we have an autistic population. We do know that we have a visually impaired population. And so the conversation of making sure that there are safety precautions put in place for individuals like that, and that there should be an assessment to find out how many more are living in the community. What else do we have here? Right? So, of course, blaring, fix the streets, no more Oreo crumbs that's, fixing the paving of the streets, because that's the joke that that the streets are being fixed with Oreo crumbs instead of making sure that it's properly fixed. And on a more regular basis. We don't know what the paving schedule is, right? So the paving needs to happen on a more regular basis, especially when you know Fabian Place is Fabian Place. Hello? 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 Right, this is this is my sister who said she used to run but the rats, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So we had a robust conversation over here. The large conversation was lighting, fix the streets, shuttle. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's right. Okay, so thanks everybody for participating. Y'all the bomb.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you so much to the facilitators. Thank you to Katim and your team. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up on a Wednesday night. Really appreciate it. I'm going to have Chris say some words. Tell them about the website.
All right, so the QR code is not working. It's not working. Oh, okay. All right. I'd like to say thank you guys all for coming out. I know we started with 4 times this among the people. Thanks for spending your evening with us. This is not the first time we're going to be in your neighborhood or in your ward. We're going to come again. We have 7 more of these meetings throughout the city. So if you want to know more about this again, follow us on our website, Newark360.org, where you can be plugged in, give us your email, We'll reach out to you. We'll let you know what is going on. Everything that you've said here tonight is going to be documented, and we're going to have it on the What We Have Heard section of the website. And look out for us again after all of these meetings, because when we've started drafts of this master plan, we will be bringing it back to neighborhoods to ensure that what we have written is a reflection of what we've heard. Before we wrap it up, I want to acknowledge Councilman Larry Crump, who represents the entire city. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your service. As a, I'd like to thank Katim and his team, Renata, and all of you guys who are just doing a wonderful job tonight. So see you at the next meeting, and get home safe.